Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Emmerdale confirms 3 suspects for Cain Dingle's road horror. Upcoming scenes will see the beloved character be struck by a car. Emmerdale has confirmed that there are 3 suspects in the incident, which will see Cain Dingle be the victim of a hit and run, with the beloved character left fending for his life on the roadside. The ITV soap confirmed a new storyline earlier this week, with Cain left for dead after being hit by a speeding car as he walks along a country road. As confirmed by an Emmerdale insider, he will be dazed before he's found by son Kyle Winchester. When the scenes air across the week commencing April 6th, fans and residents of the village will be quick to wonder who could have struck Cain. In some advanced spoilers, the soap has now confirmed the identity of 3 suspects with some new preview clips. In the first teaser, which can be viewed above, the trio of suspects is outlined: Carrie Wyatt, Jacob Gallagher, and Graham Foster. Though they may not have an immediate grudge against Cain, there could be a twist. Carrie is seeking a divorce from husband Eric Pollard as she continues her fling with Jai Sharma, while Jacob is feeling the pressure at the hospital as his boss, Dr. Todd, shows a brutal side. Graham, meanwhile, is trying to ruin Kim Tate's life. The clip shows all 3 characters feeling anxious over a particular event, though it isn't exactly clear if they're stressed because of their personal circumstances or because they're the individual who struck Cain. The second teaser, which can be viewed below, depicts the moment that Kyle finds Cain at the side of the road. He swiftly calls an ambulance and worries that his father may succumb to his injuries. At the time of the incident, Cain is talking on the phone with his wife Moira, with an insider for the soap teasing. 1 minute Cain's on the phone to Moira, the next minute he's knocked down and left for dead. In that split second, everything changes again for Cain, and the long list of worries he's already got is about to get even longer. But first things first, he needs the emergency services, and fast, they added. The rain came down in relentless sheets, turning the narrow country road into a slick ribbon of danger. Headlights cut through the darkness, fractured by water and mist, as the village of Emmerdale slept uneasily beneath the storm. Somewhere in that black, twisting stretch of tarmac, Cain Dingle's life had been thrown violently off course. The crash had been brutal. Twisted metal, shattered glass, the acrid smell of fuel hanging in the air. By the time emergency services arrived, Cain's car had already begun to hiss and smoke, its front end crushed against an ancient oak tree that had stood for generations. Cain himself had been pulled from the wreckage unconscious, his fate uncertain. But this wasn't just an accident. By morning, whispers had already begun to spread through the village. Emmerdale had seen its share of tragedy, but something about this felt different, calculated, deliberate. And as the police began their investigation, 3 names surfaced almost immediately. 3 people, each with their own reason to want Cain Dingle out of the picture. Suspect 1, Caleb Milligan. Caleb stood at the edge of the hospital corridor, his jaw tight, eyes fixed on the floor as doctors moved in and out of Cain's room. To an outsider, he looked like a concerned relative. But those who knew him better could see the tension simmering beneath the surface. His relationship with Cain had always been complicated, brotherly, yes, but laced with rivalry, resentment, and a long history of betrayal. Recently, things had escalated. Business disputes had turned personal. Words had been exchanged that couldn't be taken back. The night of the crash, Caleb claimed he'd been at home. Alone. No witnesses. No proof. But someone in the village swore they'd seen his car speeding down that very road shortly before the accident. Dark-colored. Headlights off for a moment, as if trying to remain unseen. When questioned, Caleb's response had been calm, almost too calm. "I'd never do that," he said, though his eyes flickered with something unreadable. "He's my brother." Yet in Emmerdale, blood ties had never guaranteed loyalty. Suspect 2, Amy Wyatt. Amy's hands trembled as she sat in the cafe, untouched tea growing cold in front of her. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it again, the flash of headlights, the sound of impact echoing through the night. She had been driving along the same road when the crash happened. Or at least, that was what she'd told the police. What she hadn't told them was that she'd recognized Cain's car moments before the collision. Their history was tangled. Cain had been both protector and threat in her life, someone who had helped her when she needed it, but also brought chaos in his wake. Recently, tensions had flared again, centered around family loyalties and secrets that refused to stay buried. There were rumors, quiet, persistent, that Amy had argued with Cain earlier that evening. Voices raised, accusations thrown, and then there was the dent in her car. Small, easily explained away as an old scrape. But the timing was suspicious. When approached by the police, Amy insisted she'd only arrived after the crash. "I didn't see anything," she said, her voice shaking. I just heard it." But guilt has a way of revealing itself, no matter how carefully it's hidden. Suspect 3, Nate Robinson. Nate leaned against the barn door, staring out across the fields as the storm finally began to ease. His expression was hard, unreadable, but inside, a storm of his own was raging. His relationship with Cain had always been volatile. Father and son, bound by blood but divided by years of anger, misunderstanding, and betrayal. Though they had tried to rebuild their bond, cracks remained, deep ones. Recently, those cracks had widened. A disagreement over family matters had turned explosive, leaving both men furious. Nate had stormed off, his last words to Cain echoing ominously, "You'll regret this." Now, Cain lay in a hospital bed, and Nate was left to face questions he couldn't easily answer. Witnesses placed him near the scene that night. Not directly on the road, but close enough to raise suspicion. Close enough that he couldn't simply be dismissed. When the police questioned him, Nate didn't flinch. "Yeah, I was out," he admitted. "But I didn't do this." Still, his anger toward Cain was no secret. And anger, in a moment of recklessness, could easily turn into something far more dangerous.